For years, the war had happened somewhere else and to someone else. Life in Moscow was largely normal. On June 18, 2026, hundreds of Ukrainian drones broke through the densest air defense network on the planet and wreaked havoc on the Russian capital. How could this happen, and what does it mean for Russia, for Ukraine, and for the future of warfare? Moscow is, by almost any measure, the most heavily defended city on Earth. It has not one ring of air defences, but two. Concentric belts wrapped around the capital, and inside them more systems still, threaded through the city itself. By the spring of 2026, open-source analysts counted roughly 130 firing positions in and around the city. At its core, there are close to 100 Pantsir systems, built to knock drones and cruise missiles out of the air. Behind them, there is a layer of Tor launchers, and above it all, nearly 24 S-400 batteries, among the most capable surface-to-air missile systems ever built. And still the Russians kept building. In a single summer, from May to September of 2025, they raised 43 steel platforms meant to lift these systems higher and give their radars a cleaner line on anything creeping in low in the Moscow region. A city of 13 million, wrapped in steel and radar. It is a fortress, and its crown jewels are the S-300, S-400, and the brand new S-500 systems. They are extraordinary machines, engineered to destroy the fastest and highest things in the sky. Fighter jets, ballistic missiles, cruise missiles at the edge of the atmosphere, and more. So a few drones slip through, and a refinery burns. Why does it matter? Two answers. The first is symbolic, and you already feel it. This is the capital of a nuclear superpower, a city that was untouched by the ventures of the Kremlin since the Cold War. There is now a fire 15 kilometers from the Kremlin, caused by the enemy. The Kropotnya refinery belongs to Gazprom Neft. By itself, it supplies up to 40% of Moscow's fuel and around 70% of the gasoline burned in the Moscow region. Industry sources say it could stay dark into 2027, and it's one of many. By Kyiv's count, 15 refineries have been hit since January. Nearly 40% of Russia's refining capacity was damaged. That being said, a former Ukrainian intelligence officer told ABC News the part most headlines skip. None of this changes the front line tomorrow. It bleeds revenue and helps shift the politics. It's strangulation, but not a knockout blow. We talked about Moscow's S-400 systems, built to destroy the fastest and highest things in the sky. The drones are the slowest and the lowest. The problem is almost embarrassingly simple. A long-range strike drone crawls along at maybe 150 kilometers an hour, 50 meters off the ground. The big missile systems look up and out. They're built for jets and warheads tearing across the upper sky. The short-range guns cover what's close and low, but slow, low, and far out? That's a gap between the layers, and the drone lives inside it. Analysts gave CNN the blunt version. Russia's air defenses are simply not fit for purpose against this. Not built to detect it, not built to track it, not built to destroy it. The fortress was built for a different war. And even when the fortress works, it loses. A cheap Ukrainian attack drone, the kind built by the thousand, runs about $55,000. The bigger Liu-T may be $200,000. The missile fired to stop it, whether it is a Pantsir round or a Tor, an S-400, costs many times that, sometimes millions. Spend $1 million missile to kill a $50,000 drone, and you've won the engagement and lost the exchange. Now do it 200 times in a single night. Russia's own pro-war bloggers have admitted it all year. One of them called the drones swarming Moscow shit and sticks, junk that burns through the best air defense missiles on Earth. So what are these things? The workhorse is the Lyuty, built from late 2022 as Ukraine's own answer to the Iranian Shaheds hitting its cities. Crude in the best way, fiberglass over wire mesh, a propeller on the tail, a 75-kilo warhead in the nose. No airbase needed as it lifts off a stretch of highway, and it reaches. Strikes have landed 1,700 kilometers deep inside Russia. The older Boba runs on satellite navigation and preloaded waypoints. Less precise, but with no pilot link, there's nothing for jammers to cut. So it skims at treetop height, deaf to interference, following its map. And that map is the real weapon. Ukraine doesn't fly blind and hope anymore. Their military intelligence charts every known pantsir and tor. They find the corridors where electronic warfare has gone quiet, and they program a path that threads the needle gap to gap, under the radar horizon, all the way in. And that seam they're flying through, Ukraine helped cut it. For months, they've hunted the defences themselves. In November 2025, a single strike near Novorossiysk destroyed 4 S-400 launchers and 2 radars. Every radar killed widens the gap for the next one. In May 2023, 2 drones targeted the Kremlin. Russia called it an assassination attempt, and the obvious answer is Ukraine. But the obvious answer has a hole in it. American officials landed on likely a Ukrainian intelligence or special unit, and then added a phrase that should make you cautious. Low confidence that Kyiv's government ordered it. Maybe a freelancing unit or a warning shot. And some analysts raised a colder possibility, a false flag staged to justify what came next. Ukraine denied all of it. 3 years on, we still don't truly know who flew those 2 drones. As to the numbers, watch what Russia actually publishes. They tell you how many drones they shot down, but never how many got through. The most important figure in the war is the one neither side will say out loud. And both sides have reason to lie. Russia inflates its kills to look impregnable. Ukraine inflates its hits to look unstoppable, and to tell the world that Moscow isn't serious about peace. We are watching this through 2 propaganda machines pointed at each other. The drones are real, the fires are real, but the scoreboard is foggy. Anyone who gives you a clean number is selling you something. So, strip out the propaganda. What's actually left? This was never really about Moscow's skyline. It's about a balance tipping between the weapon and the shield. And right now, the shield is losing. For years, it was Ukraine that lived under the missiles, learning the cruel arithmetic of air defense, that you can't catch everything and what you miss burns. Now that same logic has crossed the border. Even the best interceptors ever built can't keep pace with something cheap and built by the thousand. The math doesn't bend for prestige. And you can read Russia's fear in what it does. It is bolting missile systems to the roofs of apartment buildings in its own capital. It is pulling launchers off other regions to drag them toward Moscow and the Lake District, where Putin keeps a residence, leaving the rest of the country thinner to do it. That is not the behavior of a fortress that feels safe. 80 years ago, the prophets of air power dreamed of breaking a nation from the sky with 1,000 bomber raids. They mostly failed. The fleets were too expensive and the losses too high. Ukraine is running the experiment again, on a smaller scale. Not with bombers, but with cheap drones. So what does it mean? For Russia, a war it called distant is now overhead, and a fortress is spending millions to swat junk out of the sky. For Ukraine, a way to reach the enemy's heartland without crossing a single line on a map. Pressure, leverage, and denied revenues. And for warfare itself? That's the one nobody can answer yet. A weapon almost too cheap to count against a defense too expensive to sustain. For a century, the side that could afford the better machine usually owned the sky. Moscow still has the better machines. It is losing anyway. Somewhere inside that contradiction is the shape of the next war, and every cheap drone slipping through the gap is writing its rules in real time. The fortress is still standing. It is simply no longer impenetrable. And the distance between shot down and got through is the distance the rest of the world is now watching.